Okay. There we go. Hi, my name is Jennelle and I'm here to share my story with you. The best way that I could feel to share this story with you and share every detail that I wanted to, I actually wrote it all down. And it's about, I think it's like 28 pages, non-double spaced. And basically, I'm already shaking. I'm just excited to get this out and to share everything with you all because I want to be able to share everything and every part of this journey with you. So here we go. I'm just gonna start reading. November 2007, I got salmonella poisoning, and I was 17 at this point, and my health conditions had been happening for around a year now. I had migraines, endometriosis, IBS from salmonella poisoning. My salmonella, I went from having milk every day to having a glass of milk and getting extremely sick within minutes. Anything greasy, oily, fatty made me feel super nauseous and sick. My migraines would be literally constant. I went from having pain, from a dull pain, to not even being able to speak. My migraines pain was so bad that the vibration of my voice would hurt my head. I got IBS from getting the salmonella poisoning, and this was from recalled peanut butter. I started to not want to eat any dairy or find lactose-free alternatives, lactose-free milk, dissolvable lactate lozenges, so I could still have something that was making me sick without the side effects. When I think about that now, I'm like, oh, duh. I went to all the doctors that put me on all the pills, all the way up to the last option of a neurologist who wanted to put 40 shots of Botox all over my head. Endometriosis meds were varying hormonal levels of birth control, which I had been put on at 11 years old to regulate my period, which is also horrifying when I currently think back on it. I was put into a study of a drug. Without insurance, this shot would have been $2,000. I was given $250 for being a guinea pig, and God knows what the hell was in that drug. It was a intramuscular shot on the butt cheek that felt like I got punched in the ass for days every 3 months. It worked for some symptoms. Then I went off of it because it started to terrify me. I'm like, I don't want to be on this. I don't know what's in it. Then I went back on birth control methods, and a lot were causing me to have super bad acne, which I never had a problem with before. So then I tried to go back on that shot, and it didn't work the second time around. A very important factor that I have to stress is that I didn't start having some of these insane symptoms within the endometriosis spectrum until I was medicated for it, after a laparoscopy surgery to prove that I indeed did have endometriosis. I would bleed every day for 2 months sometimes. Randomly I would bleed and then stop, and then bleed and then stop when I was not supposed to. I would have 3 to 5 hours of contraction episodes. I would be laying in the fetal position, holding onto a pillow, screaming into my blanket, clenching every muscle in my body to try and not feel these contraction pains. I missed so much school that I had to transfer high schools to finish a year worth of school in a half a year at this new school. So from 16 years old to 22, I struggled with chronic pain from my head and the endometriosis, and the stomach sickness from the salmonella poisoning from a lot of what I was eating and trying to figure out how to eat without getting ill. At this point, I just ate everything. So I was eating grains, breads, pasta, cereal, pasteurized dairy and butter, chicken nuggets, canned soup, candy, beans, lasagna, microwavable meals, ice cream, and what I thought at the time was normal. August 2010. I was 20 years old here. So as I was figuring out dairy was a huge trigger of sickness and pain, then meat started to honestly gross me out because I was so sick, and all of a sudden I thought about what I was eating and then felt even sicker. Like it was the first time in my life that my body started to be like, we don't want this right now, but it hit deep to my core. I was dealing with migraines the best I could. I was on a form of birth control for the endometriosis, and I had started changing things around in my diet to see how I felt, because getting sick from your food is not fun. Throughout this whole time, from age 3, I was a dancer and trained 5 to 6 days a week. I would have to miss dance sometimes, and that sucked. About 19 is, I think, when I stopped eating meat altogether, but I still ate dairy because I liked cheese a lot. I wanted to try out for a NBA basketball dance team, and I knew I wanted to tone up and lose some squish so I could feel comfortable auditioning in a sports bra and little tight booty shorts. I went to the pre-audition workshop so you could kind of get an idea and tips onto what this audition was like and what they were looking for. The choreographer said I'm beautiful and I'm a great dancer, but I need to lose some weight, and personally I already felt that, but with that being what felt like the only thing holding me back from achieving this goal, it was like, all right, even though I have all these medical things going on, I need to feel into how to get my body to feel its best. So I could work out athlete style to get this athletic, leaner dancing physique that I knew was required of this dance team position. I was doing the insanity workouts. I was starting to count calories and figure out how much my body needed to be able to do these workouts, kind of following and learning from the workout food guides in Insanity, and also started a weight training system as well that I meshed in with my high intensity interval training and noticed even more toning and strength. I would have a Cliff Bar and a light yogurt for breakfast. I remember that being a common breakfast. Then I decided to try to cut out dairy because I already knew it was making me sick anyways, and try following a vegan diet. I remember researching and finding books to read and learn about veganism because if I stopped eating animals, I needed to learn how to nourish my body with plants, all plants, since I had never done this before. I remember being furious with all of the crazy practices and things I had never been told about food and how they make food and everything else. Saw the documentaries and then was so excited about jumping into this new way of life that seemed like the holy grail I had been looking for. I could eat this way and I didn't need to eat animals or dairy, and I could be healthy and okay, I'm ready for this. My diet that I followed every day was simple whole foods, plant-based, or what I thought was at the time. I made homemade oatmeal with almond milk and almond butter and berries. I had an apple and almonds for a snack. I ate a mixed green salad with chickpeas usually, and carrots, red pepper, onions, with some balsamic style dressing, and then dinner was a bowl of grains and veggies, with a little bit of dressing for flavor. I was working out hardcore and dropping weight and feeling lighter. The high intensity interval training was working. I wasn't eating very many sweet things at all. The apple and oatmeal were my sweetest things in the day. June of 2011. This was the photo shoot. Pictures have been coming up here. That's my main idea of this space here. This was the photo shoot where I was physically in the best shape I had been in through the high intensity interval training and some weight training. This was how my body looked at this point. This restaurant opened up in the town I grew up dancing in, and it was all vegan, and it had raw vegan dishes as well. I got a raw butternut squash pasta with some sort of cream sauce made from, I think, mushrooms and cashews. This was the first meal that I didn't feel sick from in years, like years. So naturally, I went on the internet and searched raw vegan. I searched raw vegan on YouTube. What was out there at this point in time in the raw vegan world on YouTube? Who had the most views? Whose videos popped up right away? A video starring Freely, narrated by Harley. Harley was asking her what she ate. She was responding. This female looked vibrant, healthy, glowing, in shape, and happy. She drank like a liter of OJ for breakfast, a banana smoothie for lunch with like 10 bananas, and then I think another liter of OJ. I was like, what in the world is this? Earlier on in that week, I had went to Trader Joe's and picked up a bag of prunes. The sweet, dense prunes. I only planned to eat a couple. I ate the whole bag. I was like, oh my God, what did I just do? Why did I want to eat the whole bag? I had been lowering my calories some more and still working out intensely. I think my body was just like, oh my God, calories give me... I hadn't been having too many sweets, so it was just like this hit of sugar. As soon as I saw this video that Freely and Harley made, it led me to 30 Bananas a Day website. And I also I saw maybe like 10 videos on this new festival called the Woodstock Fruit Festival. The first ever festival happened 1 month before I found this raw vegan, high fruitarian style diet. I was so in awe of this whole thing because I saw all of these people sharing how they cured all of these sicknesses and health problems eating this way, and since I was in chronic pain and the only food that felt good in my body was a raw vegan meal I had at that restaurant, I decided I wanted to try this. I bought 2 cases of bananas and started ripening them, and then started eating mainly bananas. Started with banana ice cream style. I could only eat 5 bananas at a time, And since the recommendation for everyone apparently is to eat 25 to 30 bananas in a day, I made it my goal to eat 25 bananas in a day. I started to notice right away this weight gain, but as the 30 bananas a day website and moderator said, this is normal. And then it just magically will go away because of thermogenesis or something like that. I wasn't noticing any physical pains from what I was eating besides the volume aspect of apparently needing to stretch out my stomach so I could easily have 10 to 11 bananas at one time. I spent hours and hours on this 30 bananas a day website and watched the very few videos covering the first ever Woodstock Fruit Festival over and over, thinking about how I could not wait to attend the next summer's festival. I kept gaining more weight and I never was feeling satisfied off of only fruit, so I thought there must be something I'm doing wrong. After having a 12 banana smoothie with a couple strawberries in it and not feeling satiated, even though my stomach was full of volume and fruit, I reached out to Freely to ask her for advice. I told her what I had just eaten and how even though I just ate that big smoothie, I was wanting to still eat, craving to eat more food, and I was craving savory food like rice and tomato sauce. What was her advice? Eat more. That was literally it. Eat more? Did you not hear me just say I ate 1,200 calories of fruit in one sitting, and you're telling me the answer to why I was still hungry was that I needed to eat more? I figured, well, it doesn't make sense, but honestly, eating this way is pretty new to me, so I don't know. I struggled badly with eating big amounts of fruit smoothies and then wanting to eat more, so then I would eat cereal and more carbs and just not feel satiated whatsoever. My stomach would always be distended, and I thought I was just doing everything wrong because I couldn't stop craving savory food and I was just not feeling satiated. May 2012. 9 months had gone by of me struggling to try and stick with this all-fruit diet, shoveling in the fruit smoothies packed with bananas and dates and berries, and then eating other foods because I was not satiated. Keep it high carbs, carbs are everything, carbs, carbs, carbs. I went from being in the best shape of my life to gaining probably 40 pounds. I was trying so hard to do this diet right, and I was gaining all this weight and not feeling energized to work out as much as I used to at all. All my medical stuff was still going on, and I was on these birth control pills, still messing with my body, and I was a mess. I kept thinking I must be doing something wrong because clearly I'm not doing it right if I gained a ton of weight and I'm never feeling satiated. August 2012. This picture was at the Woodstock Fruit Festival 2012. I had waited 11 months for this moment of being able to meet and connect with some of the fruity fam that I had met through 30 Bananas a Day and seen on YouTube. I was so excited because I felt like being at this festival around all of the Fruitarians and the lectures and everything, I would finally be able to figure out what I am doing wrong so I can succeed and feel good on this lifestyle. I went to every lecture that I could with my notebook and pen, trying to pick up on any tips and tricks I could. My endometriosis was really bad at this time. One of the most memorable moments I had from this Woodstock was when I was about to go on the bike ride around the lake with Harley and everyone else that was participating. I get on this janky bike and I was wearing red long sweatpants style shorts. We start the bike ride and I realize I have no idea how to work this bike. On top of that, I started bleeding out of nowhere, which was happening regularly at this point with the endometriosis, and it was the second the bike ride started. I felt my face flush red. Since my shorts were red and you wouldn't have been able to notice, I just said fuck it and started the bike ride. Everyone has taken off and here I am pedaling like a mad person with my bike crawling like a slug. I was like, oh fuck, I have no idea where everyone is now and I'm alone shit. Someone came back and found me after like 10 minutes and then rode with me up to this street sign where Harley was waiting. Here's this person I had been idolizing and following, and now I got to go on a solo bike ride with him, and I was nervous and excited. We're on the bike ride, and it meant a lot to me because at some points when I was trying my hardest to get up this hill and I couldn't, he would get off his bike and push me and help me. Harley said I had a really nice smile and taught me how to do a snot rocket. Oh, good times. At the end of the bike ride, Harley took the time to say to me how inspiring it was that I came on the ride even though I wasn't a cycler and that I pushed myself and it was great. I don't think he knew at that time, with all my struggles I had been having medically and dietarily, how much it meant to me what he was saying, and I want to thank him for that moment. I had become friends with a girl named Dorothea who went by Dot, and we both were trying to figure this whole fruitarian thing out. We saw there was a lecture on water fasting by Dr. Douglas Graham, who is the author and creator of the 80-10-10 diet, which is a dietary guideline. Sorry, I just keep checking time here. It was a dietary guideline explanation book on how to eat raw fruits and veggies exclusively. I had gone to some of his other lectures, and at the last second, Dot and I decided to go to his lecture together. All of the medical situations he was talking about that were healed with a water fast were flooring me. I had been through 6 years of pain and pills and suffering, and to hear that people were able to reverse chronic conditions with a fast, I was just like, oh my God, is this it? I went up to him after the lecture and asked him if anyone had healed endometriosis on a water fast, and he said yes. As soon as those words came out of his mouth, I knew I needed to do this fast and let my body heal naturally. January 2013 comes, and I'm in Costa Rica at this water fast. I believe that the water fast event itself started on the 3rd, but a few of us had started the water fast on the 1st of January. The whole fast was a long process of resting and sleeping and going to lectures to learn more about this process we were all on. Dot and I had become close, and we were even roomies together during this fast. My first videos that I ever posted to YouTube were my water fast vlogs. I took one every day, and Dot helped me out to make these videos, and I was just sharing what I was feeling and what I was going through. I did this water fast for 25 days. Day 3 of eating again, and I didn't have symptoms of migraines or endometriosis, and this was the first time in 6 years I wasn't feeling pain. Being at this retreat, I finally was surrounded by people eating and thriving on a raw vegan diet, and I finally understood why I was probably struggling the whole time that I was trying to be fruitarian previously. The thing about the 30 bananas a day scene was that they were stressing fruit and carbs, and there was not really too much, if any, emphasis on talking about veggie consumption. I was having breakfast, lunch, and dinner with buffets of melons for breakfast, and then lunch always had celery and romaine and lettuce and cucumbers along with bananas and papaya, and dinner time is usually mangoes, some papaya, with lots of veggies like tomatoes, lettuce, celery, cucumbers, and zucchini noodles. I started to understand and see the importance of eating a lot of veggies to satisfy my cravings for savory food that I had always had. I always craved eating non-sweet foods over sweet fruit. February 2013. Before I left this retreat, I wanted to make sure that I had all of my questions answered with this 80-10-10 style diet so I could follow it and feel my best and get the results I wanted. I didn't want to struggle anymore, and I was so tired of struggling to get it right. So I had a one-on-one with Dr. Graham and asked him all the questions that I had about the way he does it and has been doing it and feels the best. Everything from the time of day he eats, how frequent when he exercises, and calorie-wise, what I should be aiming for, everything. He worked with so many athletes, and I trusted his advice to help me to be able to be my super active self again and train for dancing. A huge component of this diet is to be high carb, low fat, and they emphasize that low fat pretty intensely. The amount of fat that I could have to stay in the ratios I needed was 1/4 of an avocado a day. Everything else was fruit and vegetables. I knew this, yet when I got home from this fast, all I wanted was fat. I felt bad about wanting fat, but my body was wanting it so badly that I was just doing it. I felt horrible in my mind thinking, oh my God, I can't be eating all this fat, but it was just satisfying my body so much that I just let myself eat it. I think a week straight, all I wanted was guacamole. So I would have like 3 or 4 avocados with a ton of cherry tomatoes mixed in and lots of lime juice and eat the entire bowl. I remember being home right after the fast, and I had 1/4 of an avocado on its own, and I felt an intense energy change where I went from feeling like up to, whoa, I need to sit down. Even though it was this feeling that I judged as bad, my mind and body were like, I want this. I let myself eat avocados and tomatoes for probably a week, still having some fruit, but I just wanted the avocado. I told myself I had to get back to low fat and eat mostly fruit because that's what I was supposed to do. I struggled with depression mostly every day during this period because I was trying to understand why my body wanted and craved fat so bad if I was supposed to be eating high fruit, low fat. Most days I would do okay all day, but then at night I would speed to the grocery store to get nuts or avocados. Then I would feel mad and sad at myself for doing something against what I knew I was supposed to be doing, but my body was literally screaming at me for fat. It was super hard because I was literally fighting with myself every day to try and find this underlying reason as to why I was going to fat or wanting it so badly, where it was like this addiction feeling that I would need it. When I think back in the state I'm in now and know that my body was screaming at me to eat fats because it's what it needed and wanted. Even though I was eating nuts and seeds and avocado or coconut and durian, I still didn't feel satisfied. So I went through my days eating high carb, low fat, and just drilling it into my head that I can't keep eating the fat I would have. I got better at controlling myself, but it would also lead to me having fat binges every couple days. I remember not wanting to eat fat so badly that I instead would eat the most insane amounts of fruit and veggies until the pain and distension in my stomach would be so much that I had to stop. Besides the emphasis on low fat, the emphasis on eating a very high quantity of food was apparent since I still needed to eat enough calories. I was eating about 1,900 calories a day on a normal day from fruits and vegetables. I never limited my veggie intake, and I ate enough fruit to get enough calories. Eating an entire Vitamix full of banana smoothie was literally my everyday, 11 to 12 bananas at once, then eating celery or romaine with it. Still having the capacity to eat more after that and wanting to, but then I would just tell myself I can wait until dinner to eat. Dinner was an insane amount of veggies and mangoes. I actually never craved foods that weren't fruits and veggies, so it wasn't hard for me to stick to this. The nuts and seeds were part of the diet in small amounts, of course, but I was never thinking about eating any other kinds of foods, so it wasn't hard to stick to eating this way. It was just hard because my body was craving and wanting fats and density. August 2013. Woodstock Fruit Festival 2013 time. I couldn't wait to go back and see all of my friends from the year before and all the new people that I had connected with. I was feeling good for the most part, but had a deep struggle every day that I was hiding. The constant want to binge on fats, the constant mental anguish and struggle of trying to force myself and prevent myself from eating fats. At Woodstock, I saw all of my friends again that I hadn't seen since before my fast. All my dear friends were so excited for me, and I was being interviewed by a lot of the pioneers about how I had healed my endometriosis and migraines with the fast and then eating this way. It felt amazing to have all these people so excited and happy for me that I healed these health conditions, and it was cementing in my head even more that I was going to be fruitarian for the rest of my life. After Woodstock, I went to New York City to continue the fruit festivities, after parties, and eat fruits and vegetables with all of the fruit families still hanging around. Went to the Fruit Luck that my dear friend Chris hosted and saw all my friends and was interviewed by Victoria and Freely about everything I had healed through that water fast, and I felt like I was helping people with sharing my story, and I was so excited to have healed from those medical conditions and to be feeling better for the most part. Then it was back to home and back to try and control myself to not eat all the fat and keep pounding in the fruit. January 2014. My 1 year 100% raw vegan anniversary. I was so excited to reach this milestone in my journey because I had wanted this and stuck to it and wanted to feel the best that I could feel naturally. I would just feel better and better the longer I did it, I thought. So I followed it and continued. Honestly, when I look back at this picture now, I see my swollen face and I know how much I was struggling to try and do this perfectly and kicking myself every night that I would eat more than I needed or more fat than I was supposed to have. I struggled with my weight because I kept having fat binges, and if I wasn't binging on fat, I would be eating mountains of banana ice cream to try and satiate myself that way. My ability to train and work out, I remember it just started to feel harder. I would still push myself to work out, but I didn't have the energy or will to make myself work out as hard as I used to, and I just kept trying to get this food situation under control. My self-esteem around my weight and body just kept getting worse because all I wanted was to be in shape for dance and train for dance when I couldn't get a handle on my diet and just started to feel like all my energy and focus had to go into getting my diet right. May 2014, 1 year and 5 months into my 100% raw vegan journey. Depression around my body, my mind, and my eating habits just kind of took over my life. I wanted to share this picture because even though I was sharing this picture when I thought I looked good, I was really sad. putting on a happy face, yet I was struggling. Someone literally commented on this photo that they could see sadness in my eyes and hurt. And it hurt because I knew it was there, but just put on a happy face because I was still raw. I was still sticking to something that I so badly wanted to be and wanted to work for me. Every day was a battle of trying to feel satiated, to not binge, and to follow the low-fat, raw vegan guidelines. August 2014, right before the Woodstock Fruit Festival 2014, I had decided I wanted to try Watermelon Island as a reset or cleanse from all the higher fat I was binging on and too many calories that I had been eating. I did 21 days on only eating watermelon. I was working out during this as well. I was eating as much watermelon as I wanted, and honestly, I felt really good during this cleanse. I did notice my strength and my workouts felt less, but I figured, well, I'm detoxing, I'm cleansing, this is probably normal. I'm not sure how much weight I had lost during the Watermelon Island, but I got down to the lightest weight I had been in a long time. I think I was at maybe 130 here, but maybe even in the high 120s. Before the Watermelon Island, I think I was in the high 140s to low 150s. Out of everything that I had done since my water fast, physically as far as digestively, energetically, I felt the best during this Watermelon Island. Even my face puffiness was drastically reduced, and I felt like I was actually able to see my face shape without a layer of puff. I went to the Woodstock Fruit Fest 2014 and saw all my friends again. Going to Woodstock was literally the highlight of my year, seeing all of my friends that were in this lifestyle that I believed in and forming close bonds with beautiful people. I felt at home here more than I had ever felt anywhere else. I felt accepted and loved for who I was. I think a lot of people there that go to this festival feel that. I had never had a giant community of friends ever before until this festival, and it truly meant the world to me. October 2014, of course, after Woodstock, it was always hard to go home knowing I wasn't going to be around friends or community and to have to go back to chatting with my friends online or through the phone. I did feel alone a lot, and I felt even more alone when I would silently struggle with food. I continued to struggle and then made my way to one of Dr. Graham's Cedro Woolley, Washington retreats that are focused around helping people to succeed with this lifestyle. Even though I was a year and 10 months in at this point, I was struggling every day. I thought being around Dr. Graham and all of these people would help, and I would learn more to implement to help myself. At this retreat, I got my period. This was the first time I got my period since my water fast. I went a year and 10 months without having menstruation. I was told by Dr. Graham that this is normal for someone who has done a water fast to experience the loss of period. I even went to get an ultrasound because my mother was freaking out, and I was still ovulating, but I wasn't bleeding. I remember the fat binges had gotten even worse in the couple months leading up to my period. When I got my period at this retreat, I remember feeling bad. Like, I felt bad that I had gotten my period back and that I was menstruating again. I blamed myself for eating too much fat, and that's why it came back. I had felt under the impression that I did not need to bleed and that it was normal to not do so, per some people actually saying this was the case. During this retreat, I also got injured. I was doing an exercise on the trampoline, and the next day when I woke up, I had an insane amount of pain in the very middle of my spine in between my scapula. It hurt so badly I could barely move. Dr. Graham is a chiropractor, and at the end of the day, he was going to adjust me. When he adjusted me, I'll never forget how much it hurt. This injury has never healed and has gotten more sensitive over time. I have gotten x-rays, and it does not show anything in the bone or discs that is wrong, so I really don't know where or what the pain is actually coming from, but it is intense, and I have to be careful with it. I was told I had nothing to worry about, and it would heal fast, because raw veganism. January 2014, 2 years, 100% low-fat raw vegan. You would think after 2 years of struggling I would be getting better, but it just kept getting worse. Depression was normal, binges were still happening, banana ice cream binges, cashew binges, guacamole binges, melon binges. I was doing this lifestyle and continually struggling to try and stick to these 80-10-10 ratios every day. Some days were okay, most were not. I had visited Hawaii for a week in March 2014 and stayed with dear friends and had amazing tropical fruit, and ecstatic dance broke my heart open. I knew I wanted to move here for the ecstatic dance and the amazing fruit and community. I had made the decision that I was going to move to Hawaii. Before my move to Hawaii, I was going to visit California, go to a music festival in Costa Rica, and then go to Peru to do ayahuasca. So I made a big trip out of it all. I was so depressed and had done so much research on ayahuasca that I thought it could help me with my depression and healing from past traumas and help me to understand why I was struggling so badly. February 2015, this was my first stop on my little travel tour, California. I was excited for this journey and move in my life, and I thought life was going to get so much better for me and I was going to figure everything out. I was going to be able to get a handle on raw veganism and not struggle with it anymore. April 2015. During my month-long stay in the jungle of Peru, I did a ayahuasca 8 times. This was a month-long deep immersion retreat. I had never done anything except drink occasionally from 16 to 21, never had a hit of weed, never had any other type of drugs or anything. I was going into this ayahuasca experience head first. I knew what I was getting myself into, and I also trusted that this could help me understand more about myself and help me heal depression and trauma. I didn't want to struggle anymore, and I wanted to have peace within myself. I was able to be completely raw vegan at this retreat. One night they forgot that I didn't eat salt and put salt on the veggies they gave me. The salt tasted horrible, and to me, at first, I didn't even know it was salt, and I thought it was like lemon or lime juice. When I found out it was salt, instant panic and distress kicked in. I hadn't touched salt in over 2 years, and honestly had plans to never have it again. This one small situation really got to me, and I was so upset. 6 ceremonies in, and I still hadn't felt like I was getting any better or understanding any of my food struggles and depression. I was asking for avocados almost every day and having them, knowing I didn't want to, but I wanted the fat. I wanted it so bad. The day of the 7th ceremony, I was just a mess. I had spent thousands of dollars to come here and to try and help myself with this ancient plant teacher wisdom, and I felt like I had gotten nowhere. I was just sobbing and so sad. I went to the healers who didn't even speak a word of English, and basically, with movement and sign language, to try and help them understand, went to them sobbing and motioned that I didn't love myself. I didn't love any part of myself. I was so sad. I couldn't understand why the depression just continued. I didn't understand why I was struggling every day to try and feel okay and stable and normal. The healers understood what I was trying to say and started pressing all over my head. Once they were done, I remembered thinking, instead of asking the medicine to help take out this pain and help me not feel this depression, I should be asking to feel what is already within me, the light and love that's within me. I went into that 7th ceremony with the intention of feeling the love that is within me and everyone and everything. I'll never forget the experience I had that night because it was one of the most intense feelings I had ever felt in my body. After I went back to my room after the ceremony and I was alone, I laid on my bed. I was definitely still tripping. I felt a sphere of energy buzzing around my heart and then shooting out into my entire body in all directions, to the top of my head down to my toes. It kept happening, waves and waves of this energy shooting from my heart into my whole body, so intense that my ears were popping. This feeling was just so intense. I knew I was feeling this love and this energy emitting from me, and it had been there all along. It felt unlike anything I had ever experienced. I left this retreat and remember honestly feeling even more than I was already feeling. Here I was at a friend of a friend's helping with their raw vegan restaurant in Peru for a couple of days. With that bit of salt at the retreat, I actually started wanting and craving salt pretty intensely. I could feel and see the puffiness and swollen and felt horrible about myself, but now I wanted salt and fat like crazy. I finally was just giving into this craving and letting it consume me. I went to a raw vegan restaurant in Peru, I think 2 or 3 times in the couple days I was there, and ordered like 7 dishes and ate them all. My stomach capacity was so huge after being fruitarian for so long and fitting insane amounts of food into my body at once. I moved straight to Hawaii after Peru. After a month of eating high-fat, salty foods, I craved eating cooked food for the first time since I was raw. This to me was horrible, and I couldn't believe I was feeling this, and I was going nuts. After 2.5 years of being 100% raw vegan, I ate cooked food. When I say my whole world fell apart after that was an understatement. The amount of shame and guilt and sadness I felt around eating the cooked food was just beyond anything I could have imagined. hours of going around trying to decide what I wanted to eat, and also picking up something in the grocery store and then putting it back, only to grab a smoothie, only to put that back and grab cooked food. I was having a breakdown around my life and my diet and everything that I thought I was, which at that point was raw vegan. It had become everything and consumed everything. To feel myself eat the cooked food and then feel the sadness and defeat was unbearable. I ate rice with tomato sauce. That's all I wanted and all I was craving. Sounds weird, but it's what I wanted. August 2015. After eating that rice and feeling the way I felt about it, I straight nosedived into binging on cooked food. The caloric density of the food I was now eating and the quantity I was eating matched my Fruitarian stretched digestive capacity. Your girl was eating the same quantities of food as raw vegan Jennelle would have. I was gravitating towards vegan junky foods made from grains and corn and soy and oils, plant-based fats, and wheat and veggies and fruit. I gained 40 pounds in a rapid time and got to the heaviest weight that I had ever been in my life. I had hit about 185, I believe, at this time. I had started this business situation with a friend and knew I had wanted to create something to help others so much with what I personally had went through of emotional traumatic events through a mixture of movement and dance and meditation. I personally had an intense meditative experience in Hawaii that led to me connecting with someone to release a trauma as they were passing over. I want to share this story in a separate video because, this situation made me question reality and energy in a whole new way. Even though I was going through this weight gain in Hawaii and trying to find a job and a place to live all simultaneously, I was dancing a few times a week at ecstatic dances. I moved to Hawaii to help myself heal through ecstatic dance and freestyling. I had danced my entire life, and when I went to those 2 ecstatic dances in Hawaii, they both brought me to tears, and I knew I needed to move there to go to ecstatic dance on a regular basis. Every time I would go to ecstatic dance, I got to feel in and meditate and forget about anything other than music and my body. When I sat down at my computer to think of how to create something that could help others, it just came to me to write down like I already knew it, and I didn't even have to think about what I was writing. It was just all flowing through me, and I had already done this before. Like, I literally just had to remind myself and write it down and then execute. Even though I was going through this intense situation, I created something from it, and through it, that felt like the most incredible gift I could give and share. My dear friend Carla took this picture of me for me, and I was feeling genuinely excited and happy to be sharing this creation with others and having it help so many people. I went to the Woodstock Fruit Festival 2015 and was so excited to share this with my dear friends and with people that were wanting to move through some emotions and accept and allow the emotions to be felt. Going back to Woodstock close to 60 pounds heavier than the previous year, needless to say, I was pretty nervous about that. I will never forget when I saw one of the pioneers and they said to me, "Looks like you've put on a good fat store since I last saw you." That literally fucking crushed me. I told him later on how much that hurt and he apologized, but come on. I taught, I think, 4 workshops on Empower Motion and so many people came. The more people that were in the room, the more intense and primal and amazing the workshop got. The feeling of holding a space for these beautiful people to feel the way they were feeling and moving through their emotions was just unlike anything I had ever experienced. And I wanted to share it with as many people as I could since so many people were sharing with me how life-changing it was for them. It was the greatest gift I had ever received to hear what someone went through and how much they worked through and how much better they felt afterwards. The food situation I was going through just wasn't even phasing my ability to do something that was so from my heart and soul. I'm forever grateful for Hawaii holding that space for me to create something like this that affects people in such a positive and transformative way. I went back home to Hawaii after this experience and was being thrown through every ring I could imagine of struggle. It was such a weird contrast to know I had this huge gift I wanted to share with people, yet I was struggling to find a place to live and a job and base needs. One day I needed to eat, so I took a piece of plywood I found, put on my tap shoes, and tap danced on the sidewalk for some time with a hat in front of me so I could eat dinner. When I say I was going through struggles, it was just a lot. October 2015 and May 2016, I continued to struggle with food and tried to really start listening to what my body wanted. I tried to let go of all labels and just feel what felt best to eat and start paying attention more. I distinctly remember eating poi from Waipio Valley and feeling a sense of grounding and rooting that I hadn't felt maybe ever in my life. I think it was in that moment that I remembered and realized that my body wasn't meant to just eat fruits and vegetables. The taro plant became this symbol for me of rooting and grounding and perception shift, and I fell in love with this plant and what it did for me and how Hawaii allowed me to go through this intense life situation there so I could learn that it was trying to teach me and tell me something. I went in every day to be fully present with why I was eating something and how it made me feel. Weight started to come off as I started just focusing on whole plant foods like beans, veggies, fruits. I was starting to try and figure out what honestly helped me to feel my best. June 2016, my grandpa passed and I went to Massachusetts for the funeral, and there was a lot happening for me here. I remember I was so off-grid and living so within nature and barefoot all the time and free and open and around so many wild and free and loving, happy people in Hawaii. Visiting during this point in time for me with what was happening was so intense, to say the least. On this trip, I did come to a very shocking allergy realization. So back in Hawaii, I had stopped eating bananas just because I just stopped wanting them. I gravitated towards the juicier fruits and tropical ones if I were to have any. When I was visiting Massachusetts, I wanted to make some banana ice cream. I remember still holding on to this belief that I needed to feel like I needed to get back to fruitarianism somehow. I ate banana ice cream one day and then the next, and then I went to take a picture for my Instagram with some banana ice cream in my hand. I wake up and see my face every day, and if you look in the mirror after a few days and all of a sudden your face is noticeably puffy and swollen, you wonder why. So here I am thinking, what have I been eating that I haven't been eating in Hawaii? Bananas? No way. Naturally, I used to basically live on these as a fruitarian, so I was in no way thinking I could be allergic to bananas. I mean, I had to find out. I cut them out completely, and within 2 or 3 days, the swelling and puffiness that I had all of a sudden in my face went away. I was still in disbelief, of course, so then I looked back to all of my pictures when I was raw vegan to see this swollen, puffy face that I literally didn't even recognize that I had or was experiencing. Like, I thought that's just what my face looked like. That realization was so earth-shaking for me. I couldn't even believe that I hadn't ever seen it or noticed it until that moment. My main food for 2.5 years was bananas, literally, and I'm allergic to them. Yes, I would notice headaches and feel kind of tired after eating my banana smoothies, but I just felt like it's because I was eating a lot of sugar at once. It just blew my mind, and then I really started to pay attention even more to what my body would react to. I could tell within a couple days if something was reacting within me just by the swelling in my face. July 2016. At this point, I was visiting California for some time, trying to figure out my next steps in life. I had been listening to my body and cutting out things from my diet that I didn't feel good after I ate. I had cut out most grains, if not all, and was eating veggies, beans, fruits, nuts, and seeds. I think I was still eating soy and corn here. I was feeling slightly better and like I was getting more in touch with what my body wanted. I started to exercise a little bit more and try to get active again. I felt my strength and ability to work out just kept getting less, but I still tried to make it a point to exercise because a strong body for dance was my goal through all of this. August 2016 is when I left living in Hawaii. This was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. I loved Hawaii and the community and the nature and ecstatic dance. It helped me to come more into my heart, express my inner child, release intense trauma, accept me more for just being me, and brought amazing friendships into my life. Even though this time in my life was the most life-changing in a positive way, it was also the hardest time of my life. I carried my backpack on my back every day filled with anything I might need, hitchhiked the entire time I lived there to get anywhere, with a few short periods of times where I got to borrow friends' cars, was homeless sometime, was trying to make it work as hard as I could. Moving to Massachusetts to my parents was the last thing I wanted to do, but I knew it could help me to be able to get on my feet. Made my way to my 5th Woodstock Fruit Festival and had the joy of leading more Empower Motion workshops and seeing my friends. Right after this, I then went back to Cedar Woolley, Washington to help at Dr. Graham's fall retreats by helping them in the kitchen with food prep. To say I was beyond exhausted at this point in my life was an understatement. I had just lived in fight or flight mode every day in Hawaii for a 1.5 years, unstable living, trying so hard to get stability with no means to actually do so, all while trying to figure out how to eat and what to eat so I could feel good. When I got to Washington, my exhaustion and sadness honestly just took over. I felt like a part of my heart had gotten ripped out when I had to move away from Hawaii because it is the most home I had ever felt in my life. I literally fell in love with Hawaii, and it was devastating me to not know when I would be able to go back to visit. So I'm at this retreat working, and I'm just so exhausted and sad, and I can't hide my emotions. I was doing everything to try and bring myself out of it, but the sadness and exhaustion was winning. I had already come to the conclusion that I was allergic to bananas, so naturally I wasn't eating them at the eating times at this retreat. One day at lunch, one of the educators at these retreats asked me why I wasn't eating bananas, and I told them. They replied, "Well, I mean, what's wrong with a little extra skin?" This educator in this retreat setting, after I told him I was allergic to bananas, literally didn't even think anything of what I was saying. He said in a roundabout way that even if you're allergic to something, you should eat it anyways for calories, and your allergic reaction doesn't matter, and you should continue to eat the thing you're allergic to because it's calories. I just remember feeling so much shock and anger and confusion at that moment. I knew this entire way of eating just did not resonate with me anymore, period. This educator has been involved in Doug's retreats for a very long time and eating this diet for a very long time, and I love him as a friend, but when he said that, I just lost hope in his mental state. During this time, I was in contact with a close friend who offered me a job in Colorado on her friend's farm and knew that I needed to make money to get a car. With what I could make, I came to the conclusion it was best to leave Cedro Woolley and get on my feet faster with a job to help me get this car. When I came to Doug to tell him I needed to leave because of my depression and so I could go to a job and make an income to get a car, it just did not go well. I couldn't stop crying every day. I was exhausted, and at this job in Colorado, all I had to do was sit with some scissors and make money trimming some plants. I thought it would be helpful to not have to do much activity so I could help my exhaustion, and I would be making a very good income fast so I could get my car and then get some more things rolling in my life. It broke my heart to leave helping Doug because I had looked up to him so much and had already helped him and looked up to him for years. The response I was met with when I said I had to leave left our friendship there with it. We haven't spoken since. I remember getting to the airport and eating bagels with peanut butter and jelly, and the binging started again.